And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore podcast, where we never sit out. I'm your host, Matthew Dawson, and joining with me again today, co-host C to the D, Chris Dawson. What is going on? It's week 8.
We get a little blessing here in the middle of college football season. Every week is a blessing, but this one more so than others. A little mini rivalry week. Can you call it that? Right?
Yeah, I think
Obviously,
I think you could call it that.
obviously the third Saturday in October has for long since been a Tennessee and Alabama rivalry game, but you got some other ones, right, that have formed some pretty good rivalry games that we'll talk about for sure. An in-state Ohio matchup, maybe in the MAC, for sure. Gonna talk about that as well as others. We got some trophies on the line with Minnesota and Iowa. Obviously, the Big Ten East complications and college football playoff complications with Penn State, Ohio State, even Utah, USC, two teams that are trying to find themselves right now in the Pac-12. And then a Riley Leonard less Duke goes into Florida State. And we got a couple other games we'll talk about too. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, and as always, we're gonna be previewing these games, and then if you stick around long enough, you'll get to see our upset meter.
Yep.
It's a segment that's been recent the last couple of weeks, and you'll see some best bets, which might be turning it around this week. So yeah, but anyways, thank you guys so much for your support. If you guys like the content, like the video. It's that easy. It's that simple. Like the content, like the video. Subscribe if you want to be back for more. And without further ado, let's get into it. First game we're going to preview. Penn State at Ohio State. Wow. The first two of the big three meet in the Big Ten East there. This game for me is really tough to look at because I don't know how much I believe in Penn State's offensive line, but you know what I do believe in? But like relative to like what we thought their offensive line was going to be, right? I'm not saying they're a bad offensive line at all. That is not what I'm saying. These defenses. That's what I believe in. I believe in these defenses right here. The spread is 4.5. At 4.5, obviously, because it's in the shoe. How are you feeling about picking this game?
First of all, I'm just excited. I don't really have a strong feel either way. I think we still don't know a lot about these teams. I think we expect these teams to be peaking, and I don't think we've seen their best football yet. Will we ever see it this year? I don't know, but we might see it in this game, and that'll determine, obviously, the winner of this game gets put in an absolute driver's seat, right? If you're, because then you can still lose and potentially get in or you control your own destiny. You don't need stuff to happen in the other game with Michigan. Obviously the trilogy there with these three teams at the top of the Big Ten. But hasn't it? It's been a while since Penn State's beaten Ohio State. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but 2016. That was when Saquon Barkley was there.
Was that Trace McSorley too?
That was McSorley, a young Barkley, and the block PAT on. And Penn State went on to win the Big Ten, I believe, and win the Rose Bowl there against USC. That was a long time ago. Since Ryan Day's gotten Ohio State, they have done very well against James Franklin and Penn State. And I do think this coaching matchup is definitely something I'm going to watch out for. Not only at the head coaching level, but the coordinator level, right? Manny Diaz versus this Ohio State offense, Brian Hartline and Ryan Days, and then Mike Yurcich and Jim Knowles, two fantastic coordinators in their own right too. It's awesome. Two young quarterbacks got to prove themselves. We believe a stable of running backs on both sides of the ball. However, to be honest, I'm not expecting Trevon Henderson to play. I don't have any intel. I just, based on his career, based on what's happened this year, I'm not banking on it for Ohio State, but I still believe Ohio State's going to win this game. Give me the better team, I think, a little bit at home, right? It's hard to pick against that. There are plenty of paths for Penn State to pull the upset here, and I wouldn't even call it a huge upset. Obviously, neutral site, this is a 1-point game. It's a pick 'em game, But going on the road is going to be tough for Drew Allar. First test for him. The Ohio State defense, like you talked about earlier, and bringing up this game was the defenses is what's legit on both these teams. Obviously, there's talent on the offensive side of the ball with Marvin Harrison Jr., Mecca Buka, the stable running backs Penn State has, and some good wide receivers as well. But the defenses, man, it's going to be a different looking game than it has been in the past with how well the defenses, I think, are going to play.
Yeah, if you remember this game last year, this game was close. It was a close football game until Tua Lamolau Whatever, however you pronounce that.
JTT.
JTT. Till he just absolutely took over that second half. I'm gonna fade you here. I'm gonna take Penn State. I'm gonna take the points, and I'm gonna take them to win the game. And I hate that pick because they're on the road against not just a rival, a very, very, very good football team, a tier 1 football team. But I think Penn State, like we said, we haven't seen like the absolute dominance from their offensive line, but they're a good offensive line, right? I think they'll be able to run the ball well enough. And the biggest thing that I'm looking at is Drew Aller can take care of the football. He does not turn the ball over very well. He doesn't put the ball in danger, which is really important, especially for a young quarterback. So I believe in both of these defenses almost equally, but I just think Penn State has the edge there. I think Drew Aller will take care of the football, and I think they have some DBs to potentially match up with Marvin Harrison. We saw what Notre Dame was able to do, lock him down, Benjamin Morrison on him, and then they also had some help over the top there. So I have a feeling that they're going to have some kind of combination where they're able to effectively do that. I trust Manny Diaz in the same way that I trust Jim Knowles. But yeah, especially like if you're going to give me 4.5 points, Penn State as a dog, I'll take them. But if I'm taking 4.5, I think they're also going to win the game. I just think Ohio State hasn't looked. Neither of these teams have looked perfect. But I just think like if Ohio State can't score points, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, but that's why the defense I think gives them cushion this year to win with their change up, at their off speed pitch. However, I do think something that needs to be said and why I do lean Ohio State, because I do believe these teams are so evenly matched, is that game against Notre Dame. While yes, they got outplayed on the road and they probably should have lost that game, could have lost that game very easily, right? But that experience matters. That's priceless, going into a hostile environment, playing a very talented team in Notre Dame and getting a win there, right? Penn State have not been battle tested yet. Doesn't mean they're not going to be ready for this game, but I think it's something worth noting in terms of Ohio State's been there. Kyle McCord has that big experience under his belt, while Drew Aller, not only is his first road test, this is his team's first test against a very talented roster all year. But with all due respect to the Penn State schedule and West Virginia and them, right, Ohio State's a different animal. I think we all know that. I do think Denzel Burke, he's been a little bit banged up. I hope he really plays. I think he's going to play, for what been hearing, but he'd be a huge boost because without him, obviously he's maybe one of the best DBs in the conference there in Ohio State. But yeah, like you mentioned, I think that matchup between Penn State's DBs and Marvin Harrison Jr. and the wide receivers on Ohio State is gonna be awesome. Matchups all over the field. This has the making of a very special game because of those matchups. Not only is it two elite teams with a lot of potential, like the macro sense of this game is huge, but the micro sense in terms of matchups, coaching matchups, DB wide receiver matchups, O-line, D-line matchups, right? We talk about Penn State's linebackers early in the year. They're fantastic, right? Against the run game against Ohio State, and even getting after the passer there too. It's incredible. This is really, really incredible. We're blessed to have this experience.
Yeah, I love it. I'm pumped. I am pumped. I don't blame you for taking Ohio State though.
I do think real quick, I want to say this, like, and not to turn this into like a college football playoff expansion segment, but like let's like really enjoy this, right? As a 4-team playoff where the loser of this game might be eliminated from playoff contention just because they lose this game, right? Like that. This is awesome. Cherish this moment. Cherish this game. Both sides are gonna be fired up and ready to go. And obviously the atmosphere there in Columbus doesn't get many high impact games, maybe one or twice a year. This will be one of them for sure.
Let's talk Duke at Florida State. A Riley Leonard-less Duke traveling to Tallahassee against a Florida State team that I think people have kind of mellowed about. I mean, they dominated Syracuse the other week. I mean, they're still a really good football team. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But Mike Elko is kind of the best there is right now in shutting down the offenses. He just is. He just is right now. So at this point, anything can happen. This is a very big line. I don't know what this line is if Riley Leonard is playing, but this is a very large line. Do you have any? I don't know. I want to hear what you got to think. I want to hear what you got on this game.
I'll give you my pick before I give you my explanation. Real quick, I'm gonna go Duke to cover and Florida State to win. Right? I think 14 is too high. And the reason why is because, like you mentioned, Mike Elko is fantastic. I trust him and the way he's going to set up his defense and matchups, even though how talented Florida State is, right? I think they're going to keep it close no matter what, even without Riley Leonard. I do think their quarterback, right, is Henry Bellin. I mean, not a great throw of the football, right? They
I
still
think he's,
moved the ball well. They had big
but
plays.
Riley Leonard wasn't throwing the ball that well before he
No,
went down.
that's a good point. He was not, but I do think like the offense changes. Obviously, like Riley Leonard's special talent. We all know that. I mean, Henry Berlin had 4 completions against North Carolina State, which has a solid defense in their own right for sure. But he's gonna have to do more in this game, and I think they might open it up for him a little bit more. But the reason why they won right by 3 touchdowns last game was because they explosive plays. And while I do think that's important to be able to have in your offense, to rely on that in big games is going to be hard, right? Which is why I'm going to take Florida State to win. But I do think Duke is going to ultimately cover.
Yeah, I'll ride with you there. The one thing I am nervous about, though, right, and these Duke corners have played very, very well up until this point, but they have not faced a receiving core like the one that they're going up against this Saturday. And believe me, I have seen Miles Jones. I remember watching him play John Mechie in 2020. That's how old Miles Jones is. It was not pretty. And Keon Coleman is upgraded John Mechie. I mean,
He's a freak. No, he's
he's
a
a
freak.
freak. I that does make me nervous. I do think like Jordan Travis has been playing fine football. He hasn't really needed to like do a ton, but yeah, I'm literally with you just because Mike Elko. Like, I really wanted to take Florida State in the 14, especially at home, but Duke has proven, man, that they can get after it. They can get after it, and they can hold teams like if even if they put up 3 points, right, or if they put up like 10 points, 24-10 is not out of the picture. You know, I do think Florida
That's
State.
just it.
I do think though this is a different level of talent that Duke has played on the offensive side of the ball than they're used to. But I still think, they, I still think, aside from that, like run at the end there for Audric Estime, they shut down the run game for Notre Dame, right? Clemson, I mean, they were able to run the ball, move the ball a little bit, but they just they get it when it counts, man. So they're gonna get up for this game for sure. They're not afraid. They are not afraid of Florida State at all. So yeah, give me Florida State to win, Duke to cover.
I do think it's worth noting that I mean last week I think we all were really impressed with how Florida State beat Syracuse, but other than that, I mean the last time we were really impressed with Florida State was after LSU, and even now that win looks a lot different than it did in the moment for sure. While Duke has been playing good football, I think for the last maybe the whole season, right? Outside of maybe the first half against Notre Dame. I think it's very unfortunate that Riley Leonard is not going to be able to play in this game. It would be awesome to go see him duel, and I think they would have a real fighter chance. Obviously, the line would be a lot lower, like you mentioned. I don't know how much lower exactly, but it would definitely be a lot different. It to me though, like while I'm picking Duke to cover, I do think if you're Florida State, you would love to see them go and make a statement at home against a ranked Duke team that, while yes, they're without their starting quarterback, they're still a really good football team. We're very well coached. This would be a very impressive win. And to show up and play really good football, 4 quarters of dominance would be really awesome. Because the back half of your schedule, I mean, Miami, who we think is still a good team, that's really it. You're circling, and then you got to go to Florida. That's not really a conference game, so that's not really going to depict your ACC championship implications, right? So like, this is to me, this is like their last big test, in the ACC, and I think it'd be really nice to see them. But also like if they do struggle on the same time and it's a 1 possession game in the fourth quarter, and maybe they get a late touchdown, to go up 11 points or whatever it is, like it wouldn't worry me. It really wouldn't. Like Duke does that. Duke's going to do that to your team. Bill Belichick, we talked about him forever in the NFL, where like he takes away your number one receiver and he makes you do something different. Like Mike Elko has that same effect. Not necessarily the same strategy that Bill Belichick does, but in terms of like, oh, like if you're not playing your best football offensively, you just chalk it up to Mike Elko is fantastic at his job, and that's the reason why that's happening.
I agree. It's gonna be a good game. I think. I do think. I kind of feel like Florida State still might dominate this. Like it might look like domination, but I think Duke finds a way to cover, make it close.
Can I ask you a question here? We talk about this a lot, especially with Mike Elko involved. Who do you think is a better coaching staff or coach in general? Like, who do you trust more this week of preparation and during the game of game management? Mike Elko or
Mike
Norvell?
Norvell. Gosh, that's a really good question. I don't know if I have a
It's a,
straight answer for that.
and that's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
I think it's kind of comparing apples to oranges. They're both coaches, but they're very different. They're very, very different. But I do like Duke's staff a lot though. Like Kevin
Yeah.
Johns, Tyler Santucci. I love that staff. So at Florida State's got a good staff too. But I don't know. I'll give the slight lean to Duke, which is wild to say that. It's crazy because Mike Norvell's just done an absolute unbelievable job for Florida State. But this
Yeah.
is a credit to, I mean, Mike Elko, Kevin Johns, Tyler Santucci. They all might be head coaches in the next couple of years. So somewhere we don't know.
I do think it was. I wanted to ask that question because I want to put that out there. I do think you're right. It is apples to oranges. I think the way you run a program at Duke, it's a lot different than you run a program at Florida State. Like if Mike Norvell tried to run his program like he does at Florida State at Duke, a lot different results than if Mike Elko runs his program like he does at Duke at Florida State. Totally different. But yeah, credit to both these coaching staffs for getting these two ACC contenders where they are right now.
Miami at home versus Clemson. Line's 3.5 right now. Is that too much? I'll tell you right away. I am taking Miami. I'm taking the points. Uh, yeah, I get it's not like an insane home environment, but what's important is that they're not playing Death Valley, right? I know Clemson's got a pretty good defensive front, but I think Miami's might be just as good. I think this Miami team might be just as talented as this Clemson team. And if you're going to give me them at home, laying 3 and a hook, give me Miami to win and Miami to cover. Tyler Van Dyke, I mean, the kid is Jekyll and Hyde, but if he shows up, even a lick, I mean, I don't know. We might be looking at a 3-loss Clemson team.
What's
3
crazy is this
ACC loss Clemson game.
before they got to go and play South Carolina, right at South Carolina. Not that South Carolina's been impressive this year, but regardless, that's like exactly. So, first of all, this is not even a ranked matchup. No, none of these teams are ranked, which is crazy. It's on the ACC network. It's because of all the losses in conference. That's crazy, right? I do think Clemson does have a pretty tough schedule down the stretch, right? At Miami, at North Carolina State, Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, even, and then North Carolina, South Carolina at the end there. If they lose this game, I don't think it'll be their last loss. Although I'm gonna take Clemson. I'm gonna fade you here. I'll take Clemson. I'll give me the points. I don't care. I do think they're gonna show up ready to play. It's crazy because, like you said, I agree with all the points you made. Right, this is a very talented Miami team, probably just as talented as Clemson is, if not maybe a little bit less, but very talented at home, and I think they had the better quarterback. And I'm still taking Clemson. I just think Clemson, since that Duke game, has been playing actually really good football. The more Garrett Riley's there, the better and better they've
Except the
been
Wake
looking.
Forest game.
Yeah, but Wake Forest will do that to you. Like they always play Clemson tough, I feel like. And I don't like this pick at all. I just have a gut feeling that Clemson's going to play their best football here and get a win. Will Shipley has got to dominate. They got to figure out ways to get him involved, not only in the rushing game, but also in the passing game as well. Give Clay Klubnik time to do his thing. And let's be like, Miami at home is not a great home at field advantage, I will say. In the ACC, especially with Mark Cristobal there, I don't think they won many, if any, home games in the ACC with him there. Obviously, it's only been a year and a half, so a very small sample size. But regardless, that's pretty alarming. I do think Clemson will go in and get the win there. Much needed win. I think Clemson needs this win more than Miami does, right? Because I think if Clemson loses this game, there's a real chance 7-5, 8-4, not out of the possibility, right? And that could be really bad with the way that Dabo Swinney's making his comments this week, and the program's getting upset with maybe how they're treating the transfer portal and whatnot. Like, yeah, it could get ugly here if Clemson wins. I think they're desperate, very talented team, desperate. To me, I love that combination, right? And so I'm gonna take them to win.
What's crazy though is Miami. We talked about them being possibly just as talented as Clemson. They are just as talented as Clemson because of the transfer portal.
In 2 years, in a year, in like one and a half off seasons, really, with Mario Cristobal.
Yeah, I don't trust Mario Cristobal to manage this game properly. I really don't. I'm just gonna trust the talent, and I'm gonna trust him. I'm just gonna trust Clemson on the road, right? Garrett, I mean, he's been doing fine, dude. Honestly, the Wake Forest game, like, it was pretty alarming. It was pretty alarming. I know that they've been playing like some other good games, but it's been really dependent on Will Shipley. I think I don't like. Is Bo Collins any good? Antonio Williams is he 100%? I don't know. Like these are valid questions. So yeah, give me the Hurricanes. Give me the Hurricanes with 3 in the hook. Alabama at home versus Tennessee. Tennessee getting 8 in the hook on the road there. That's a lot of points. I don't care. Give me Bama minus 8.5. I've watched this Tennessee team play all year, and they have looked good in one game, and that game was against South Carolina, where their offensive line is abysmal. And of course, they got to Shane or Spencer Rattler. But of course, Jalen Monroe has been playing good football. He's played good football the last couple of weeks. Even with the pressure that they've put on the quarterback, these other teams have, particularly Texas A&M, he still found a way to get rid of the ball. Tommy Rees, I think they've made their adjustments. This defense is just lights out. I don't see, like, if A&M can make Joe Milton look like an absolute tuna salad, what is that Bama defense going to do? I mean, they're going to get the Joe Milton. They're going to shut down the run game, which I don't think A&M did a particularly great job of. And they have better special teams than Texas A&M. So give me Alabama. Lay the 8.5. The total's at 49. So it's like inherently they think this game's going to be basically 28-20. So feed me. Bama minus 8.5.
I'm gonna agree with you here that Bama's gonna win, but I'm gonna take Tennessee to cover. I do think 8.5 is a lot. I know you're willing to swallow that. Pause, but I know you're willing to take those points. So I'm not gonna. I do think that has to do with the play style of this game, and I think we'll talk about that later in the episode. Stay tuned. For maybe some of Dawson's Diner there, but who'd have told you after week 2 that Jalen Monroe is, I think, a much better quarterback than Joe Milton. They have I think, a significant quarterback advantage than Tennessee does right now. And part of that is because of, I believe that, while Tennessee's got a good pass rush in their own right, too, I think Bama's defense is really going to make Joe Milton struggle. I do think, I mean, would it surprise me if Joe Milton balled out? No. Would I expect it? Absolutely not. I mean, he's got the potential to do it, obviously. We've seen it before, but not this year, right? Not against caliber of defense like this on the road. I do think, like, in a rivalry game like this, 8.5 is a lot of points. I do think they'll keep it close. And with the play style that Bama does, and we saw in the Arkansas game, when you cannot consistently run the football, even though that is part of your identity on offense, is running the football, you cannot close out games, right? And so that gives teams chance to maybe backdoor cover, like I think Tennessee will here today. I just think I've been really impressed with Bama, right? The past couple weeks. I know maybe the box score doesn't seem that way, and maybe you kind of forgot about them since that Texas loss. But they still everything is still in front of them. I don't think Saban is worried one bit. I think their two toughest games are definitely behind them in the rearview mirror with Texas and Texas A&M. But it's a rivalry game, right? Texas, Tennessee is going to come to play. Obviously, last year, I do think Alabama, especially probably more so the fans than the players, but I'm sure this will a factor in the players as well. I think they're pissed about last year. I think Alabama losing to Tennessee, if you're not from the deep South, you don't understand rivalries in college football here. Like, this is a heated rivalry. I know it may not look that all the way, always with how the last 15 years have gone since Saban's been there. These teams do not like each other, right? And I think Bama remembers that taste of Tennessee storming the field and Hendon Hooker putting up half 100 on them. I think this defense is going to be playing very, very well. I do think in my notes, the only thing I really put was just this game is going to be a whole heck of a lot different than it was just a year ago. I think about all the offensive playmakers, all the scoring. I mean, there was 100 points put up in that game, I believe, or just about. And here, I think it wouldn't surprise me if less than 40 gets put up here. I just with the way the play styles are, defense and running game is the name of the game for both these offenses and defenses, respectively for Tennessee and Alabama.
20-10.
I 20 to 13. 20 to 13.
20-10 gets it done. Utah at USC. Talk about a game I have no idea what to expect.
Disclaimer: we have no idea. We have no idea.
We're gonna give you picks, but like I am so confused as to this because
does anybody have a feel on this game?
Who can confidently say they're gonna be picking a side here? Like, who can confidently say like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be willing to put money on USC -7 or Utah +7? Like, there's no way.
And real quick, let me interject here. What is the difference between, right? If you throw Cam Rising on Utah, which he's not going to play probably, I think we all have to understand that here soon. You've been preaching that for weeks. It's very unfortunate for Utah, right? What's the difference between Notre Dame and Utah, right? Like, what? I mean, other than a week to see what you did wrong and a week to put it on film, like, oh, here's exactly how you expose USC, and Utah knows that with Kyle Whittingham, that staff. But at the same point, like, Utah cannot score at all. Right now, Sam Hartman didn't do much in terms of production wise, but they still put up a lot of points. That's what the whole conundrum is here, is like, what's going to give, right? You have a very movable object in the USC defense and a freaking I don't know. I can't.
A pebble.
Yeah. And the Utah offense. And then you have like two juggernauts on both sides of the ball. Matchup wise, it's awesome. Coaching matchup wise, it's awesome. And I'll let you talk about what's your feel on this game.
I hate it. I hate it so much. But because we have to make picks on the show, that's what we do. We make picks.
Yeah.
I will be taking USC to win. And I will also be taking them to cover. Is that unbelievable? Isn't that unbelievable?
The thing is I think that'd be my reaction no matter what you picked, because it's just like, I want to hear your explanation, and then I'll give you my pick. What's your explanation?
Here's my explanation. Utah on the road this year has been terrible. They've been terrible on the road. They played Oregon State on the road. They played Baylor on the road and scraped by. Probably shouldn't have even won that game. I love this Utah team. I do. And look, if they won, I'd have no problem. Again, you're looking at an over 8.5 win better. That's what you're looking at right now. So I'd be ecstatic if Utah won this game. But I just feel like Caleb Williams, like, there's no way that happens again. There's no way that happens again. I get it that Utah's defense is so electric. In fact, perhaps better than Notre Dame's. But USC, like, there were still moments in the game when Caleb Williams was able to hit those explosive plays. I do think Zach Branch, if they want to like take advantage of the speed of Zach Branch, there's a speed mismatch there versus Utah's secondary, I believe. Utah's also just so banged up, dude. They're so banged up. If
So banged up.
if they win this game on the road, Kyle Whittingham is Pac-12 Coach of the Year. Why
Write
wouldn't
it in pen. Write it in pen right now.
why would he not be? Like he's and here's the thing, I wouldn't even be surprised. I would not even be surprised if that happened. Because the way Utah's played against USC this past couple of years has been utter domination. So I do expect Utah to be able to run the ball, but I also expect Bryson Barnes to struggle, even against this defense. Yeah, believe it or not, I believe Bryson Barnes will struggle because you know how good Baylor's defense is? Somehow worse than USC's defense. And Bryson Barnes was terrible on the road. Terrible. Brent Keith still out. Micah Pittman out for a year. They're playing safeties at running back, which by the way, I love. I love that. That grit playing both ways like that, especially at running back. If you're like freaking Miles Jack, that's crazy. But yeah, I'm taking USC in the points, and I absolutely hate it.
I I don't know what to do here. I'm actually I'm actually gonna agree with you here. And like you, I also hate this pick because of two things. First of all, last week I took USC on a whim, and the main explanation behind it was give me Caleb Williams. Like that was it. It was just Caleb Williams, right? And that was obviously very, very poor explanation. Obviously, it wasn't just him. He didn't play his best game. No, he made some bad decisions. Absolutely. I do think that turnover luck or unlucky is going to change. I don't think they're going to have five more turnovers in this game at home. I just don't think it's going to happen. But also, like, part of my rule on picking Pac-12 games is just don't fade Kyle Whittingham. Like that's a very simple rule, and it's been very good to me. But I'm here. I am break my own rule. I'm going to take USC and I'll fade Kyle Whittingham, which is it breaks my heart. I just think the injuries are just too much to uncover. They had another tight end go down. Right, they're missing who their strength of their offense were supposed to be the quarterback Cam Rising, still not healthy, the two tight ends not healthy, and then Jaquin Jackson has been banged up all year. Yeah,
Not to
it's
mention
tough.
defensive linemen are down, wide
Yep,
receivers are down. I mean,
yep.
it is literally like it's a hospital over there.
They're 5-1 right now. They're 5-1 right now, which is very, very incredible. I was impressed with them last week against Cal. I thought they played good football. I thought Bryson Barnes did enough. He was 15 of 21 efficient. Obviously, 6 yards, on average there is not enough to get it done against USC, which is why I'm gonna take Caleb Williams. And I wanted to take Utah to backdoor cover. I just don't know how many points they're gonna score. Right. And I believe in the upside that USC can score 30 points if they want to, or 40 points if they want to. While I just don't think Utah
Barring
can
turnovers.
shoot them, barring turnovers. Obviously, I'm saying can like if they live to potential, right? And maybe Utah's defense misses some tackles, USC can break some explosive plays. The Dan can break, and a lot of things can happen, right? With a high flying offense like USC, I had to believe that Lincoln Riley and that staff will go to the drawing board and attempt to fix a lot of things that happened not only last week but has happened all season. I think last week was a very good. Like sometimes you need a loss. Sometimes you need a loss where you can hit the reset button and like actually start preaching to people like, hey, we cannot keep doing this if we're gonna survive in Pac-12 play. I'd like to see that happen. Obviously, like, would I be surprised Utah wins by 10 points? Not at all. Not at all.
For the Floyd?
What
For
do
the
I even
Floyd.
say? Oh,
Iowa at home versus Minnesota for the Floyd. What's the full name of the trophy?
the Floyd of Rosedale.
The Floyd of Rosedale, baby. Minnesota dogs on the road plus 3.5. When was the last time they beat Iowa?
I mean, I don't think I was born yet. In Iowa, I think it's been since the 90s.
Yeah, pretty absurd. But also we just talked about Utah having a hospital there. There there's a hospital. Well, there's a children's hospital, of course, in Iowa City, but it is literally I mean, they're just decimated by injuries. They have two elite tight ends. See ya. Gone. Okay,
Out for
McNamara.
season.
Gone.
out for season.
I mean, and this offense, obviously they haven't needed it somehow at this point in the season, which is crazy that they have the record that they do. Uh, Minnesota, is Darius Taylor back? Did he play last week?
Let me tell you something about PJ Fleck's injury comments. Good luck. Good luck getting anything out of him. We have no idea what's wrong with Cody Lindenberg. No idea what's wrong with Darius Taylor. Right? All these players can't. Chris Bell was supposed to be. He played like 3-4 weeks ago, and then where has he been? I mean, yes. Now, Minnesota's dealing with their own injuries too. Now, obviously, they had a bye week. Hopefully, they got healthy with Darius Taylor and Cody Lindenberg, and you'd love to see Crab out there, Chris Bell. To be honest, I'll give you my pick real quick. I don't think it matters who plays for Minnesota. I'm gonna take Iowa because
and the points.
Well, yeah. Whoa, but it's so hard to take.
It's
3.5
so
for
hard.
Iowa feels like 14.5.
The hook is so killer in this situation.
It is killer. But also like 14-10. No, that'd be way too high scoring. 10-6. 10-6 would be like that's what I think it's gonna be. Or maybe like
does Iowa score a touchdown? Do either of these teams score a touchdown?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that right now. First of all, I have no idea. Here's what I think will happen. And this is why I think I will win. First of all, like Iowa's offense is putrid. It is horrible, right? Utah has had struggles injury-wise. That's probably worse than Iowa. Maybe about the same. Utah has a competent enough offense. Iowa's is awful. Deacon Hill is terrible. Here's what's going to happen now. They will hit one long pass with Deacon Hill because they always do against Minnesota. And then they will spurt off one long run against Minnesota because they always do that. And that's two big plays. I don't know if they'll end up in touchdowns, whatever, but they'll end up in points. They'll win the turnover battle like they always do. And let me tell you the huge advantage here. And what's crazy is like I do think this advantage is like it's a 3.5 point advantage. It is literally special teams. It is special. Iowa's punter is fantastic. Right? Minnesota's kickoff return is horrible. Punt return is horrible. Punting
it has been for years.
Yeah, if you're not punting from midfield, it's been bad. It is just so painful to watch. Just Phil Parker and Iowa put on a clinic of how to run special teams, and then Minnesota to sit up here and just be bad year after year. They finally got the kicker. I believe in him. Dragon Petchik has a beautiful leg, big lefty guy. You love that in college football. Scares me to death every time he goes to kick, obviously, but he's been better than what it's been. I do think that special teams is going to change this game for Iowa, and I don't think if they're winning the field position battle, which I think this game's going to come down to, I don't think Ethan Kaliakmanis and Minnesota can put together a long enough drive where they don't turn the ball over, where they don't hold, where they don't drop passes, and don't shoot themselves in the foot to where they can actually get points or finish drives in the red zone, because it's so hard to do that against Iowa and so frustrating. They are so beatable this year. The problem is they're more beatable than they've been, I think, the last 5 years, right? The problem is Minnesota, the way they're constructed this year is not the team to beat them. They're not.
Unless Darius Taylor's healthy.
Yes.
Because they should have won last year, right? But Mo fumbled, right? I think Darius Taylor could have had that same output, right? But just, if he just doesn't fumble there, right? It's like I think he can have like a Mo game, right? If he's playing. Again, if he's playing. And because of that because I don't think he's actually going to be playing, and because I do think that Minnesota is going to still give Bryce Williams the football when that man does not deserve to touch the football at a Power 5 level, Iowa will win and cover. That's just what it is. It's 7-3. Chalk it up. 10-6. Chalk it up. 13-7. Chalk it up.
I do think like
the total for this game. If you follow me on Twitter, the Redshirt Soft at the Redshirt Soft, you would have saw Dawson Snyder early plays on some unders this week. One of them included Air Force Navy under 37.5, which is now at 36.5, and Minnesota Iowa, which opened at 32.5. I've not seen a total lower than that this year, I don't think. We might get one in the Army Navy game when that comes up this year. But I've not seen one lower than that. And goodness gracious. Now it's at 32, I believe, right now. You might be able to buy a half point, maybe get minus or under 32 and a half at like
Don't
minus
waste your time with
115.
that. Don't waste your money with that. You don't need the half point. You don't need the hook.
You don't need the half point. In fact, we talked about this all week. Like, what is the number that you would outline this to if you were to outline this?
Realistically, like if I could get crazy value on it, it would probably be like 17 and a half. Like I
Wow.
don't think that's ridiculous. I think the problem is the only thing that holds me back from actually doing that and betting that is turnover luck, because like if Minnesota throws a pick at their own 20-yard line or Iowa does, like that's just a free 3 points at least, right? So like you can't predict turnover luck. And while I do think there will be turnovers in this game, which is why I wouldn't do that. And like pick sixes, we've seen Cooper DeJean take punt returns back. Like you can't predict that stuff. It's gonna happen, but you can't predict to the extent that it will. So that's why it's hard to do that. If you're playing like this was being simulated on Madden or on NCAA 14, right? 17 and a half. And I would take like, plus, I don't know, 1,200 and just call it a day there.
So the lowest that DraftKings can give you is under 26 and a half, but only at plus 175. So I don't know if there's actually
Crazy. That's
I,
crazy.
I don't know if there's actual like value there, to be honest.
There's
Because plus
not.
175, you're buying 7 points and you're only getting plus 175. That's crazy. We're not buying points, but you know what I mean. So this game is going to be an absolute. It's going to be must watch because it's going to be a train wreck. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Well, real quick to talk about like other than the macro aspects of this game, the reason why we're covering it, not only is it the Florida Rosedale, which we are huge fans of. Obviously, I'm a Minnesota fan. This has huge Big Ten West implications. As bad as Minnesota's played this year, right? Losing Northwestern, losing to I'm sorry, North Carolina, and obviously being blown out by Michigan. Like they're still in it for the Big Ten West race. Iowa controls their destiny, obviously, but they could lose. I mean, it's Iowa. They can lose any game they play, right? With the way their offense is constructed. This means a lot, right? If Iowa wins this game, I think it's probably their toughest test remaining. Maybe Rutgers, which is crazy. Think about that sentence, right? A freaking 3-3 Minnesota team is the toughest game left on your schedule, or Rutgers. Both those games, by the way, are at home for Iowa. And it's been what we talked about 25 years or just about since Minnesota's done this and come into Kinnick and win. It'd be huge recruiting momentum for both these programs. They obviously go head to head on the recruiting trail a ton, being neighboring states, being after similar types of talents. And PJ Fleck has not had any success against Iowa, has still winless against them, which is crazy. But credit to Kirk Ferentz, credit to Iowa for being able to win consistently for a long time. I just now like if you're a casual college football fan, like you're probably not going to watch this game. You can just check the highlights after, maybe like the 20-second highlights that there are, and call it a day and check the standings and see what happens in the Big Ten West. But if you love college football, this is the game you should be circling, right? I believe is it a 2:30 game or is it a 6:30? Let me double check that because that matters. Going into Kinnick at night would be hard.
I don't believe it's a night game, but let's see.
Let me pull it up. The computer's taking forever to load. I
It's a
could have sworn
2:30.
it
It's a
was.
2:30. It's a
Oh,
2:30.
it's on NBC 2:30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must watch football. Oklahoma State at West Virginia. Two teams that are actually, I know West Virginia just lost to Houston, but kind of two teams that are kind of playing pretty decent football right now. I would classify these two teams as top half Big 12 teams. Maybe not much more than that, but definitely hurts Oklahoma State going on the road. The last two games they've had big time upsets, but they've been at home. But Oklahoma State stuck with the quarterback. And they've also run the ball effectively with Ollie Gordon. Holy cow, is that guy unbelievable. Here's the thing, though. West Virginia, very solid run defense. Very solid. It's actually their secondary. It's been quite questionable. And the problem with that, Oklahoma State throws the ball okay. Alan Bowman's shown, he's all right. Is Brendan Presley going to be amazing? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'm just excited to be able to talk about this game, right? If you think back to how Oklahoma State started the season, started off 2-0 with an embarrassing loss. Yeah, it's probably embarrassing. They lost by like 3 touchdowns, more than 3 touchdowns against South Alabama. While South Alabama is a very good team in the Sun Belt in their own right, that just shouldn't be happening to Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy. And then they lost to Iowa State the week after. The problem is like Iowa State is playing really good football right now. Oklahoma State, since that loss, right? You mentioned it, two really good upsets against both Kansas teams. And West Virginia is also like coming in the year. We did not think we were going to be talking about this game just because West Virginia, like Neil Brown, hot seat. They've been playing great football recently. Obviously, you mentioned that the Houston loss was backbreaking for them. I think they do respond here. I think they get a win back at home. C.J. Donaldson carries the rock. West Virginia's receivers, I think, have been starting to pick it up. Devin Carter, Hudson Clement, right? C.J. Donaldson, I think out of the backfield as well. I think they're going to get enough done, put enough points on the board and stop this run that Oklahoma State's had, this little mini run they've had in the Big 12.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the right side. But look, when Mike Gundy's hot, I don't know what to tell you. I'm taking Oklahoma State plus 3.5. And I'm also taking them to win the game straight up. Just because of Mike Gundy. That's it. That is it. I do think the Houston loss, while they should have won that game. Well, they should have lost that game, and then they should have won that game, and then they ended up losing. But it does hurt Oklahoma State. I think that they're on the road. I think they're a completely different team on the road. But the team that we've seen the past 2 games is not at all in any way the team that we've seen the rest of the season. This is a brand new Oklahoma State team, and people need to start recognizing that. So, yeah, give me Oklahoma State to win. Oklahoma State plus 3.5. I think Brendan Presley's pretty good as well. He had a good game last week. Ollie Gordon, man. Excuse me. Holy cow, is that guy good at football?
Yeah, I do think both these teams, right, they're Oklahoma more so than West Virginia. Like the schedule down the stretch is not too bad, right? There's a lot of winnable games for both these teams down the stretch, and both of them only have 1 loss in conference play. I believe both of them have to play. I'm sorry, both of them have to play Oklahoma, but other than that, a lot of winnable games. This could do a lot in deciding, trying to make a run down the stretch if you're trying to get that 3rd, 4th, 5th spot in the Big 12. And obviously be a huge momentum boost for both these teams and coaching staffs.
Yeah. Once again, the concern is that West Virginia's defensive line is pretty good. And they've stopped the run pretty well and effectively in most games. So could be interesting because when Oklahoma State tries to run the ball and they can't, right, what are they going to do? But again, I just sticking to one quarterback with Alan Bowman, trusting your guy, I think this team is looking better. The game that everyone's been waiting for us to cover. The MAC game of the year. Toledo at Miami of Ohio. Toledo laying 2 points. Juan Finn versus Brett Gabbert. 2 very, very good quarterbacks in their own right. 2 very, very good teams in their own right. And Miami's at home. What do you think?
This is incredible. This is awesome. Matt, you mentioned it. MAC game of the week, MAC game of the year, potentially. It's a great QB matchup. My goodness, Dorian Finn is like electrifying. Brett Gabbert's had success there at Miami, Ohio as well. Both these teams are pretty similar in terms of the fact that their only loss are to, Power 5 schools on the road. Miami, Ohio got blown up by Miami University, right, 38-3. But then Toledo had a chance and probably should have beaten Illinois at Illinois. Now, Illinois is obviously not the caliber that Miami is, but they've been playing better as of late. And obviously, it's hard to go on the road and win the Power 5 if you're Toledo and Miami. Toledo's offense has been damn good, right? They've done very well, I think. Penny Boone, right, the running back, has been pretty darn good. Miami, Ohio got a win against Cincinnati. Pretty exciting to see. Brett Gabbert, I mean, I feel like he's been there forever. I mean, I don't know if that's just me, but it's good to see him playing really good football, mistake free as best he can. 14-4 touchdown interception ratio is pretty good. It's about as good as you can ask for. The running back's been running the football well too, right? Over almost 4.5, almost 5 yards to carry, for both of them, and yeah, it's awesome. I think this is really great for the MAC. What's your feeling?
Miami is 6-1 ATS this year. Toledo is 2-5. Miami is at home. Their defense has actually looked pretty good. But good Lord, does Toledo run the ball effectively? 4th in the country, rushing yards per game. 6th in the country, rushing yards per attempt. 5.81 yards per carry. Unreal. And they've run the ball well against pretty much every team that they've played against this year, including Illinois. Granted, Illinois doesn't have a great run defense this year, which is shocking to everyone. But Penny Boone, man, from Michigan, 7.4 yards per carry since he took over in that San Jose State game. 123 yards, 211 yards, 113 yards, 129 yards, 148 yards, 7.8 yards per clip in that time frame. He's crazy. He's crazy. Excuse me. Battling the cold here. Miami's run defense isn't exactly amazing either. It's fine. I mean, 3.76 yards per carry allowed, but they've given up 250 yards to Cincinnati and Miami, Florida, when on the ground in those games. I think Toledo, while they don't have a better offensive line, they have a better rushing attack than those two teams, both. Miami of Ohio is not very beefy on the defensive line. Toledo's offensive line isn't gigantic, but they're just fast. Fast on fast. I'm taking Toledo. Give me the -2, even though they're on the road. We don't know if Quinyon Mitchell is going to be ready to go, or Maddox, or Taylor for that matter. I don't think it matters. They look good against Western Michigan without him. So now, granted, Brett Gabbert has been incredible this year, but if it's just Miami of Ohio, the fighting Brett Gabberts, I mean, I'm gonna take the team that's more balanced in Toledo.
I'm gonna take that too. I'm gonna ride with you there. I do think an interesting play here, and while I won't recommend betting it, I do think that line at 48.5. Well, it's not a low line for sure, but I do think both these teams, these quarterbacks in their own rights, have been able to put up points. I'm Ohio's defense, I think, has played well, especially in conference play. Toledo, man, no, I look out for them. I think the winner of this game definitely deserves to be ranked. Obviously, Toledo on the road, you don't love that, but they played well on the road this year, so I can't really fault them for that. I think you're right for all the reasons you said. Let's go Toledo. Let's go Rockets, and we'll see what happens in the MAC there.
This is a great game. This is on ESPNU.
Yep, 3 o'clock on 3 o'clock.
I can't wait. Whoa, it's back. Guess what? Upset meter. Yes, it is. It is back. What are the rules? 4 teams. 10-point spreads or greater. That's it. Those are the only 2 rules. So we have 4 teams picked out here. Air Force, I believe they're 11-point favorites against Navy. On the road in Annapolis. Because of the way that those 2 teams play football, and the total being 36.5, a low total, I think inherently this game has a chance to be real close. I put this one in sweating territory for that reason alone. Also, huge rivalry. Are you serious? You don't think Navy's going to get up for this game? I believe Navy's quarterback's been injured. I don't know the status of his health, or even if he played last week, but maybe I'm thinking of Army's quarterback. Goodness gracious. I don't know. But either way, Air Force is an absolute wagon. But guess what? Rivalry games on the road, man. Rivalry games on the road. When the pace of the game is slowed down too, anything can happen.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't say. Well, I would go ahead and just bet Navy money line. I do think rivalry game, like you said, style of play matters in terms of separating, trying to separate on a team. Maybe that happens, maybe that doesn't. And then you get into the fourth quarter, and who knows in a rivalry game, especially at home, if you're Navy there. We talked about last week with Air Force playing Wyoming. We gave a lot of credit to obviously the quarterback during Max there, but the fullback, Emmanuel Michelle, it's been awesome. Navy's got a damn good fullback in their own right, right? Alex Teska has been awesome. 62 carries. They're feeding him the rock there. He's got a 75-yard run on the year. He's got some wheels on him. Obviously, while Navy's schedule in terms of their wins has not been very impressive, they've beaten two Division I football teams that are just not very good, right? In North Texas and Charlotte, respectively. But who knows, man? The last time a lot of people watched Navy, and I'll be honest, the last time I probably watched a Navy game was when they played Notre Dame, right? And who knows here? They get Air Force coming off a high, right? And Navy get a nice win last week against Charlotte. Who knows, man? Who knows? I think
Yeah,
it's something to monitor for sure.
I
But
watched
luckily for Air
Navy.
Force, I will say Air Force real quick. It's not a conference game, so like if you're worried about Mountain West standings here, it's not going to implicate that obviously, but it's something to monitor.
Yeah, I watched Navy play Memphis, and they looked pretty good in that game. Granted, they lost, but they shouldn't have. They should have won that game. So
Mhm.
gonna go ahead and put this guy in sweating. Michigan on the road, 24.5-point favorites against Michigan State. Huge rivalry, obviously. East Lansing, tough barn. But man, two teams trending in opposite directions right now. I think this is pretty cold, if you ask me. I don't care how big the rivalry is. I think these are just two teams in just way different tiers.
I couldn't agree more. I did think 2 years ago this game was fantastic. Everybody remembers Kenneth Walker game, Michigan State beating Michigan, but it's a lot different team. I think from Michigan side of the ball side. Wow, from the Michigan side of the coin, and obviously Michigan State's had a rough year. They blew that game last week to Rutgers, where you thought they were maybe playing a little bit better. Couldn't close that game. Lost four straight on the year. I don't think, even though they're at home, even though it's a rivalry game, I'm not too worried about this game.
I agree. I'd say we just stick them there. Nebraska playing against Northwestern. Was this they also 11-point favorites?
Yep, at home.
At home. At home is a big deal. Northwestern, not a very good football team. Not a very good football team. But inherently, though, the way Nebraska plays, there's still a chance for Northwestern, I think. I think it's a mild chance. I think it's a very, very mild chance. Harburg's been playing okay. In fact, Nebraska's going to be hungry to win this game because they go over. They'll be 4-3 if they win this game. Matt Rule's
which
first
is
year.
which is pretty darn good considering how it probably started with the Colorado fiasco, losing to Minnesota, and then obviously getting blown up by Michigan. Are they going to go bowling this year? They got a real chance to do that, and it starts with beating Northwestern. It really does. At home, they get a bye week. There's no excuses. If you're Matt Rule, if you're Scott Frost, they probably lose this game, right? But if you're Matt Rule, you have to win this game. Right the ship, continue to make progress in building this new culture and momentum that Nebraska is trying to face.
I agree. So I'll stick it in mild. I think it's more so because they want this game, man. They want this game pretty bad.
I will add to it though. The reason why we're covering it obviously is because it's a 10-point game. Um, Nebraska, with all due respect to them, we just talked about how they beat Iowa or Illinois a couple weeks ago, right on the road. But they're not a good football team, and when you're not a good football team, especially your offense, right? It's hard. It's very easy to lose games, right? And we saw Northwestern; they stuck around a little bit in the Minnesota game. Granted, that was at home, obviously, and they won, and they pulled off an upset and won a Big Ten game. I don't think that'll happen here, but I do think that stuff can happen. It wouldn't shock me by any means, but I'm not going to pick it to happen at all.
Coastal Carolina on the road. Who do they play, you ask? None other than Jalen Rayner and the Arkansas State Red Wolves, led by the Butch Jones. This one this is more than sweating, I think. Jalen Rayner has been unbelievable. Now, he's been unbelievable at home. They played Troy last week, or was it maybe 2 weeks ago? Obviously, Summerall's going to get his boys fired up. That was a really good defense, especially you're going to put that on a freshman. That's tough. Coastal Carolina's defense is not Troy's defense. And I don't know how well this offense is operated under Tim Beck. I get Sam Pickney is obviously a fantastic player. Grayson McCall, fantastic player. I think this one has a real chance of shocking some Chanticleers for sure. So I think that this is above sweating.
I agree. I'm right there with you. I do think while Coastal Carolina has got some nice wins on their belt, obviously App State, maybe not they're the App State of years past, but it's still a good win on the road there. That Jacksonville State win continues to look better and better somehow with Rich Rod and those guys continuing to win football games. But Arkansas State, I think Jalen Rayner, if you follow 24/7, right, they just put an article about midseason true freshman teams, and he was on it on the first team offense. He was the quarterback there. If you've been listening to Redshirt Sophomore, you should know about Jalen Rayner, right? He's been on Dawson Ziner a couple times. As a true freshman there, he's been a gem. He's been a gem there. Totally revitalized that offense and that program there because it was not looking good. After 2 weeks, it was tough. And he comes in and they've been playing pretty darn good football, right? And I do think at home, like you said, with Butch Jones there, I think they got a real chance to pull this one off and then get their way to 4-2, or I'm sorry, 4-3, and have a real chance to make a bowl game, right? Which would be awesome. And probably save Butch Jones' job.
A wild turn of events based on what we saw at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
Whoa. Dawson's Diner. Look, again, 5 straight losing weeks. Okay. We went and reevaluated what I was looking at. And the common denominator was my unders were on fire. And this is a rivalry week. And those two things work very well together. If you follow me on Twitter at the Redshirt Soft, you saw that we'd put out Dawson's Diner, Air Force, Navy under 37.5, and Minnesota, Iowa under 32.5 earlier this week. I'd still take Air Force Navy under 35 or 36.5 because it's not a key number. But hopefully you're following us on Twitter, getting those picks out early. Alabama, Tennessee under 49. And I believe it's actually creeped up from 48. Shocked by that. Shocked. The way those two teams play. I mean, they're both going to try to run the ball. They're both going to play pretty good defense. They're both going to get to each other's quarterbacks. Give me in a rivalry game. Give me under 49 right there. Tennessee, I think Tennessee unders might be a thing I just might start hammering. Penn State, Ohio State under 46. It's my least confident one on here. But guess what? 2 great defenses, 2 young quarterbacks, and 2 teams are going to try to run the ball. So we'll see what Penn State's able to do to stop Marvin Harrison Jr. But I do think until the fourth quarter, like this would have hit last year for sure. But a bit of an explosive fourth quarter. JTT absolutely popping off. But yeah, give me those 4 games. Under 37.5, Army Navy. Under 32.5, Minnesota, Iowa. Under 49, Alabama, Tennessee. And under 46, Penn State, Ohio State. How do you feel about those?
I like them. I do think the unders are the way to go, especially in those games. We talked about actually all these games at some point today. And I do feel good. I think we're ready to right the ship. We'll get to 21-21 for next week, and we have a fresh start in the back half of the season.
I agree. Thank you all for tuning in once again to the Redshirt Sophomore podcast. We appreciate your support, and we appreciate you sticking around for this whole entire episode. We love that. We know you guys are real fans. Be sure to like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. We post every Thursday, right? We try to get our preview or our recaps out every Monday and or Tuesday, depending on how it is. But you can also follow us Twitter at the Redshirt Soft. You can follow or you can send us emails at the redshirtsophomore@gmail.com if you want to have questions. Be sure to comment too on these videos as well. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Spotify, just know that we do have a YouTube. If you're on YouTube, listen to this. We have a Spotify as well. If you're driving in the car, comments, right? What teams do you want to see? Or what do you agree with or disagree with, right? Particularly Utah USC. I would love to hear what you guys say about that game because I have no idea what's going on there. No clue. Zero clue. But thank you guys once again. You guys are the best. CD, anything for you?
No, thank you guys for the support. Continue to like and subscribe to our videos. We appreciate all you guys doing. If you're still watching at this late in the video, we love you. We thank you for doing that. And yeah, enjoy week 8, right? We talked about it as a mini rival week. It's a blessing, right? In the middle of the season. This is awesome.
Alrighty. And with that being said, we will see you guys in the next one.